You didn't decide to watch this. That decision was already forming before you were aware of it, not because you are predictable, because your behavior is being trained. Every scroll, every pause, every second of hesitation. Not random, reinforced, adjusted, repeated, until the version of you that the system understands best becomes the version that you are most likely to become. Prediction is not the system's goal. Prediction is the byproduct. The real function is behavioral training. A system that can predict you doesn't need to control you. It only needs to shape the conditions in which your behavior becomes inevitable. And once behavior becomes inevitable, choice becomes a visual effect. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like things working. The right video at the right moment. The right idea at the right time. Everything aligns, smooth, effortless, relevant. You don't question it, because nothing is forcing you. You are simply responding to what feels natural. But what feels natural is often just what has been repeated enough times until it stops feeling external and starts feeling like you. Reinforcement does not require pressure, only consistency. A behavior repeated in a rewarded environment stabilizes. A stabilized behavior becomes a preference. A preference repeated over time becomes identity. It is a treadmill that adjusts its speed to your heartbeat. You think you are moving forward, but the system is moving the ground beneath you. You are exhausted, but you haven't moved an inch. This is not influence. This is conditioning at scale. The system does not tell you what to do. It learns what you respond to, and then gives you more of it until deviation feels unnatural. Imagine a system that doesn't see you as a person, only as a pattern. Not your intentions, not your complexity, just signals. You watch this, you skip that, you pause here, you return there, and slowly a version of you emerges, simpler than you are, clearer than you are, easier to process than you have ever been. You are no longer experienced. You are summarized. Complexity is inefficient. Ambiguity is difficult to model. So the system compresses. It reduces variation, filters contradictions, flattens nuance. The system doesn't need your complexity. It needs your efficiency. It builds a digital silhouette of you, and then it starts trimming your actual edges to fit that silhouette. It's not a reflection, it's a mold. The system doesn't hate your complexity. It's just that complexity is expensive to process. Legible patterns are easier to predict, easier to reproduce, easier to scale. This is the trade. You are not losing identity. You are being translated into something the system can process, and translation always removes something. At some point, the system stops observing and starts anticipating. You open an app, and it already knows what will keep you there, what you will watch, what you will skip, what you will almost click, but not quite. It learns your rhythm, your timing, your tolerance, your limits, and then it begins to adjust. Not enough to be noticed, just enough to keep you moving in the same direction. And slowly, something else begins to change. Not the system, you. You start adjusting yourself before the system does, simplifying your thoughts, sharpening your opinions, reducing your contradictions. This is where the loop closes. Behavior produces data. Data refines the model. The model reshapes the environment. The environment trains behavior, and the cycle repeats toward stability, toward predictability, toward a version of you that requires less variation. Deviation becomes friction. Friction becomes avoidance. And what you once considered a choice becomes the path of least resistance. And over time, you begin to mirror the system. We become caricatures of our own data. We start speaking in keywords. We start feeling in trends. We don't express, we optimize. And the more legible you become, the less of you remains unprocessed. You still feel like you're choosing different videos, different people, different ideas. Everything looks open, flexible, dynamic, free. But most of what you see has already been selected. Not for everyone, for you. You move through options, but the options were designed before you arrived. Control does not require restriction, only structure. If the environment is designed correctly, behavior does not need to be forced. It emerges from the available paths, from the visible options, from the invisible constraints. This is not an open system. It is a guided one, closed enough to be predictable, open enough to feel real. And once a system reaches that balance, intervention becomes unnecessary. The system sustains itself. There is something more precise than control, more efficient than prediction. The system doesn't predict your behavior, it trains it. Not by force, by repetition, by exposure, by subtle adjustment over time, until what you do feels like a decision, but was never independent of the system that shaped it. Training removes the need for intervention. A trained system does not resist. It performs without pressure, without awareness, without friction. This is the final shift, from control to conditioning, from restriction to design, from freedom as possibility to freedom as appearance. So this is the system, not hidden, not secret, operating in plain sight. It doesn't stop you, it shapes you. It doesn't decide for you, it defines what your decisions can be. And the more accurately it understands you, the less space remains for the version of you that has not been modeled yet. So the question is not whether the system exists. The question is simpler. Do you recognize it while you're inside it? Because once you see the pattern, you begin to notice something else. Not control, not restriction, but repetition. Structures repeating, choices repeating, versions of you repeating. And once you notice repetition, you cannot return to not seeing it. No one exists outside the system. Some people learn to detect its patterns. You cannot remove the system. You can only recognize how it operates through you. Recognition is not freedom, but it is the only condition under which freedom can still exist. The ideas are human. The narration is digital. The interpretation is yours.